So about 2 years ago, I was a little bit over $53,000 in debt, but a lot has changed over the past 2 years, and I've done a lot of different things to completely change my life. And my net worth is now a little bit over $1.5 million and growing really quickly. Now, I want to preface this video by saying something super important, okay? I am no different than you. Like, I didn't grow up with any special privileges. Nothing was ever handed to me. In fact, my parents got divorced when I was less than a year old, and me and my two brothers lived with my mom, who was on food stamps and government support. And so you could say that I technically got dealt a bad hand, and that statistically speaking, I shouldn't even be where I am today. And there were certain things that happened to me on my journey that I have never ever shared before, because honestly, I've been kind of embarrassed about it. But in this video, I want to be completely transparent with you about how exactly I got to where I am today, because I hope that my story will prove to you that anybody can do what I did, okay? Despite your hard circumstances, despite how you grew up and all the obstacles in your way, anybody can accomplish anything in life. And I know that sounds super cliche, but I'm okay with that because it's the truth. Now, my story goes back further than just 2 years ago. This story actually starts when I was attending college here in North Carolina. Like a lot of people, I got suckered into the concept of going to college in hopes of being able to graduate, get a decent job, and live a decent life. And I'll be honest with you, okay? I hated college. In fact, I've literally always hated school in general. I've always hated learning useless things that I knew for a fact I would never use in real life. I hated the way that my teachers talked down to me and made it feel like I wouldn't be able to accomplish anything in life. I hated all the different cliques and just like groups in school that I never truly felt a part of. I mean, I've always hated everything about school. And the worst part was that by my 4th year of college, I was already $35,000 in student loan debt. But anyways, I remember that in my 4th year of college, my very last year, I got really deep into self-help books. I read Think and Grow Rich, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, As a Man Thinketh. I bought this box set of little books, and within that box set, one of the books was called The Way to Wealth by Benjamin Franklin. I mean, I really got deep into this concept of like investing in myself and building myself up so that one day I could build my wealth up. Like, I became obsessed with this concept. And this was the first time in my life that I really felt like I was able to accomplish anything, because I would read these books and these books would tell me that I could accomplish things. So much so that I basically took it to the extreme. Like, I stopped going to classes, I stopped doing my college assignments, I stopped hanging out with friends. I basically locked myself in my college apartment, read self-help books all day, went to the gym, came back, and just continued pouring into myself. And thanks to today's sponsor, Audible, you guys can start investing in yourself the same way that I was able to. Whether it's listening while you drive, work out at the gym, or do chores around the house, Audible truly offers an incredible selection of audiobooks and podcasts. And I recommend starting with one of my all-time favorites, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. After listening to that audiobook, you'll develop an increased understanding of how to be just more successful in life, how to be more productive, and overall just be inspired to actually take action on your goals. It was the first book that truly changed the way that I saw success. You see, Audible is the home of storytelling, and when you become a member, you'll get access to the latest titles in every genre. And you can choose one title per month to keep forever from the entire catalog, including new releases and bestsellers. All you have to do is just use my code Mayo at checkout, or click on the link down below, which I'll leave in the description and the pinned comment. And thank you so much again to Audible. Now, at the time, in addition to being in college, I also worked part-time at this retail store called H&M, and most of you probably know what that is. And I remember we would get these like employee catalogs that would show the new styles that were coming into the store like in a month or so. And so one day I'm sitting at work, and I remember it was a really slow day at work, and so I was just flipping through this catalog, and I randomly had this idea spring on me. What if I started making clothing based off of the upcoming styles in this catalog? And I remember during that time, the popular style that was kind of trending was like paisley. And I remember just staring at this catalog, looking through all these different paisley t-shirts and thinking to myself, I could make these. And so I went back to my college apartment that night and just began doing research on what it would take to start a clothing brand. And I was so excited because I would read about these clothing brands that started from absolutely nothing and rose to be multi-million-dollar brands just through sheer hard work. And so that night I didn't go to sleep at all. I literally stayed up all night just researching how I was gonna make the clothing, like source the materials, build the website, and just get sales in general. And I ended up spending around $500 on bulk t-shirts that night so that I could start making these paisley pattern t-shirts myself. I also ended up spending around $500 on this GoDaddy service to essentially have them build an e-commerce site for me. And the crazy thing about that is that $1,000 that I spent that night was basically like all of my savings from over the past year of working at H&M. And so not only did I now have basically $0 to my name, but I was also around $35,000 in debt from my student loans. But I was willing to spend that money because I truly believed in this business. And I remember going over my girlfriend's grandmother's house like a couple of days later, and she was a professional sewer. And so she taught me how to sew. And when I say to you that I went completely all out with this business, I mean, I even went as far as to go open up a business credit card so that I could go buy a sewing machine and all the different like sewing equipment so that I can actually begin sewing these t-shirts myself. And I began making these paisley t-shirts with accent pockets and sleeve cuffs. And I ended up naming my clothing brand Padigs. It sounds really stupid now, but at the time I was like, yeah, this is great. And so I would spend like hours upon hours, days upon days, just sewing these shirts together. And I remember I actually kept a couple of those t-shirts because I just knew that one day I would want physical proof of this business that I could share with people. And so let me go get those t-shirts really quick, hold on. Okay, and so you can see, this is one of the shirts. It's a gray, I had 33 gray with the blue paisley. I had 33 white with the pink paisley. And I had 33 yellow with kind of like this brown and blue paisley, okay? And I mean, I stitched these shirts myself. You can see the sleeves are stitched, the pockets were stitched. You can even put stuff in it. I mean, this was the real deal. Like I was really going all in with this business, and these are high quality stitches. Like if I try to pull this, look, that's not coming off. And what's funny is that the product images for these shirts were literally just me taking pictures in my college apartment and then using Photoshop to cut out the background to make it white. After just a couple of months of selling these t-shirts on sites like Etsy, eBay, and my own personal Padigs website, I ended up selling 99% of the t-shirts, minus the ones that I kept, for $15 a piece and netted $1,500, which meant that I profited $500 after my initial $1,000 investment. And when I tell you that this was so exciting for me, I mean, this was a game changer because it gave me proof of concept. Like it was the first time that I was actually able to go start something from scratch and actually make money from it. And so this made me so excited. And after selling those initial t-shirts, I just went that much harder. And I remember my friends in college asking me, Joshua, why did you stop going to class? Like, you know they're gonna fail you, right? And I would literally say to them, I don't care because I'm gonna be a millionaire one day, and so none of this even matters. And so my plan was just to continue making clothing based off of the upcoming trends from the H&M catalog that I had access to because I worked there. And I was gonna use all of my profits from the first batch of clothing to buy even more in the second batch to make even more of a profit and just continue scaling this thing that much bigger. And because I did it successfully the first time, I just knew for a fact that I could do it again. But then things took a very drastic turn for the worse. And we get into the part of the story now that I've always been very hesitant to share, and I'm still even hesitant right now. So I went into work one day at H&M, and I remember I was so excited that day because it was the start of a new season, which meant that we were getting new catalogs in, and so I planned on just looking through the catalog to figure out what I wanted my next design to be for my clothing brand. And so I'm sitting there behind the cash register, and all of a sudden the store manager alongside the loss prevention manager, the LP manager, they walk over to me and they say, Joshua, we need you to come with us. And I remember they had another employee there who was gonna kind of like take my place at the cash register. And so I knew something wasn't quite right, okay? And so they took me into the back of the store, and then they took me into the LP, the loss prevention room, right? And this was a room that literally nobody ever went into. All the different monitors, cameras pointed at every cash register, every corner of the store covered with a camera, and it could all be seen from this room. And we're sitting there for a second, and the LP manager sits down in the table in front of me. And I remember he had like this, he always wore this like really crisp black suit, and he just looked like an FBI agent. And he's sitting down in front of me, looking down at some papers, at some files, and he looks up at me and looks at me dead in the eyes and says to me, "Mr. Mayo, you're in some serious trouble." And at this point, 20-year-old Joshua at the time is completely shook. And so I said to him, "What did I do?" And he said back to me, "Don't pretend to be stupid. You know what you did, and if you don't admit to us what you know you already did, we're gonna take you to court and you're gonna have to pay a $4,000 restitution fee." Now, don't get me wrong, okay? $4,000 even now is still a lot of money, but at the time, 20-year-old Joshua had never seen $4,000 ever, okay? And so the thought of having to pay a $4,000 fine absolutely terrified me. And so finally I said to him, "Okay, fine, I'll admit it. I've been giving out my employee discount to my friends." And so when I admitted to doing this, the LP manager kind of sat back and looked at me sideways and said, "No, that's not what I'm talking about. We don't necessarily encourage you to do that, but it's not against the rules." And I said to him, "Oh, well, what did I do then?" He then pulls out this like plain vanilla folder, places it on the table, opens it up, and within the folder are 3 different pictures of me standing behind the cash register checking out a customer. And he slides all of the pictures over to my side of the table, and he points at one of the pictures and says, "Do you see that red shirt right there? You never actually scanned that t-shirt. You just placed it into the customer's bag without actually scanning it." And I said to him, "Oh, okay, but that was an accident though. I didn't mean to do that." And he said back to me, "Well, we don't believe you. We think that you did it on purpose. And if you don't admit to it, if you don't admit that you did it on purpose and that you're guilty of doing it, we're gonna take you to court and we're gonna charge you a $4,000 restitution fee." And so, me not having a lawyer present, me not knowing anything about the law, I was terrified of the thought of having to pay $4,000. And so I finally said, "Okay, fine. I'll admit that I was guilty to putting the t-shirt in the customer's bag on purpose." And so when I said that, he looked over at the store manager, and they both kind of like did a small nod at each other. And the store manager leaves the room, and the LP manager looks at me and he says, "Okay, the police are gonna come and they're going to arrest you, and you're gonna be charged with misdemeanor larceny." And my whole entire world crumbled. It's almost like time froze at that moment, because I'm thinking, misdemeanor larceny, like I don't even know what that is. Like, am I about to go to prison? Shortly after that, 2 police officers walked into the room and they told me to stand up. They put me in handcuffs and they walked me out of the store. Now keep in mind, it was a busy, super busy Saturday evening, and it was so busy in the store. And so here I am, handcuffed, being walked out of the store with 2 police officers. Everybody's just staring at me. It was the most humiliating, just like demeaning thing to ever happen to me. And so they put me into the back of the police car and they drive me downtown to the police station. And something happened at the police station that completely changed my life forever. So in the police station, they take you into this kind of like waiting room, this waiting cell, before they actually book you, okay? And there's other people in that room with you, and everybody's still handcuffed. And I remember I was sitting there and my head was down, and I felt somebody walk up to me. And so this guy walks up to me, and I look up at him, and he's just staring at me. And he says to me the most stereotypical, like classic thing ever. He says to me, "What are you in here for?" And I just looked at him, and I looked back down because I was just ashamed. I felt ashamed. And I said back to him, "I don't belong here." And I just remember he laughed and then walked away. And at this point, I'm super defeated. I mean, this is like the lowest point in my life. I'm sitting here in jail, like with other criminals. I don't belong here. Anyways, they ended up letting me go without actually booking me, and I had to serve 40 hours of community service. And I remember opening up my email that night to find out that my college wasn't going to let me graduate. And so here I am, no job, $35,000 in debt. I'm not gonna graduate college. And to make matters even worse, I no longer was able to do my clothing brand because I no longer had access to this catalog, which gave me access to all of the insider trends. And I remember just like crying myself, like literally just crying myself to sleep that night. It was the most depressing moment in my life. And so the next day I woke up and I began doing my 40 hours of community service. And the deal was that the court would expunge this, misdemeanor larceny from my record if I completed the 40 hours of community service. And so for 1 week straight, all day, every day, I literally just washed ambulance trucks. It was either that or working at Goodwill, and I did not feel like working at Goodwill. And so I would literally spend 7 to 8 hours per day just washing ambulances, right? And although this was like one of the lowest points in my life, it was also one of the biggest turning points in my life. You see, I had no choice but to just stand there all day and wash ambulance trucks. And so all day for a week straight, 7 to 8 hours, I would just be listening to self-help audiobooks, just washing ambulance trucks. And I consumed so much information over the course of 1 week that once my community service was actually over, once I completed it, I literally felt like a brand new person. Like it was almost like I had broken out of this cocoon and I was ready to go and conquer the world again. Once I finished my community service, I went on to work at this really crappy used car dealership. And I remember that I got fired after just 2 weeks because I was so bad at the job. And to make matters even worse, within those 2 weeks, I only ended up making like $200. I then went on to work at this staffing agency, which only paid me $500 per week. And during my time of working all these different jobs, I was starting multiple different businesses, just trying to find something that could work for me. Now, keep in mind, okay, by this point in my life, I'm now married to my girlfriend, which also means that I now inherited her student loan debt as well. And so not only was I $35,000 in debt from my student loans, but combined, we were now $53,000 in debt. But anyways, during this time, one of the businesses that I ended up starting was this subscription-based presentation template website. And I remember that our workstation was literally an old door stacked on top of cinder blocks inside of our tiny 1-bed, 1-bath apartment. Anyways, after doing this for about 6 months straight, just grinding all day, every day, we ended up getting about a dozen different signups on the website. And I mean, this was really, really exciting for me because like with the first business, the clothing brand, I was actually starting to see results from this. And these results just further proved to me that anything was possible, right? Despite all of the crap that I went through, getting arrested, not graduating from college, losing multiple jobs. Even after going through all of that, I was still able to come back and actually create something that I could start making money from. And this gave me an even deeper sense of confidence. But although this business was exciting and we were starting to see some success with it, deep down inside, I just knew something was just ticking inside of me, and I just knew that this business wasn't actually going to get me to a place where I wanted to be financially. And so, after several months of just extremely hard work, I made the decision to close the business down. And at that point, I'm back to square one. $53,000 in debt, a crappy job, barely making any money, barely able to pay rent every single month. And I remember that every night, my wife and I would split 1 can of Campbell's beef stew, and we would have 1 grilled cheese each. I also tried day trading during this time and ended up getting myself into over $5,000 in credit card debt. And so one night, I'm sitting at home, still working this crappy job at the staffing agency, and I'm doing everything in my power to try and make something work. And I remember scrolling online, trying to figure out different ways to make money, and I discovered something called WordPress web development. Now, I had built websites in the past on sites like Wix and Squarespace, and so I knew a little bit about web development in general. And I remember hopping on YouTube that night, and I just started watching videos about WordPress web development. And after about 10 minutes of watching this one video, I became so excited because this video was making it seem like doing WordPress web development was really easy, and that this was something that I would actually be able to do to start making legitimate money. And so I just kept watching videos all night long, and I was staring at the screen for like 3 hours straight at one point. And I remember just briefly looking over outside at the window that was sitting next to my desk, and it was daytime. I had literally stayed up all night just watching videos on YouTube about how to do WordPress web development. And I did this for a week straight. And after 1 week, I felt confident that I could start making money doing this. And so I did what no rational human being would ever do, and I went ahead and put in my 2-week notice with nothing else lined up. There were no guarantees that this thing was actually going to work, but I just felt so confident in my ability that I gave my job my 2-week notice and I quit. And so I signed up for a site called Upwork, and I started submitting as many proposals as humanly possible. And at the beginning was super slow. I mean, my first job ever, I got paid $5 to build an entire website. But when I tell you that $5 was one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life, I'm not exaggerating. Like, this might sound crazy to you, but earning my first $5 online was more exciting than the $100,000+ that I'm consistently making online now. That first $5 that I made online gave me hope. All I had to do was provide a business with a simple service, and I could do it all from the comfort of my home. But anyways, after that first job, I just continued submitting proposals, getting new jobs, and after about 6 months, it got to a point where I was consistently earning about $1,000+ per job that I was doing. And I was averaging anywhere from 2 to 3 jobs per week. This means that I was making anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 per week from the comfort of my home. Now, while doing web development, I also started several new businesses, including a website template business called Elementor Market. I started a real estate wholesaling business. I started 3 different YouTube channels, 3 different blogs. I mean, I was the definition of a serial entrepreneur. But through all of that, I was able to save up about $40,000 over the course of 1 year, and I used $10,000 of that to completely wipe all of my credit card debt. And then I used the other $30,000 to buy my first home and build a new studio for my new YouTube channel that I was planning on starting. You see, deep down inside, I have always wanted to be a full-time YouTuber. I mean, it's literally just always been a dream of mine. And so I knew that if I was gonna, actually do it, I had to take it serious. I then began trying to make the best possible content that I could. And I would stay so consistent with this. Like, week after week, month after month, I was just producing content, trying to make the content just 1% better every single video. And there were definitely times that I came really close to quitting. I remember that I would record myself on my phone, just kind of doing like a video diary of me just talking about how I wasn't sure that I was gonna be able to make it on YouTube. That I felt like I wanted to quit because it was just so difficult. I was putting in so much work and I wasn't getting results. And I would record myself doing this. Right now I've got 276 subscribers on my YouTube channel. And if I'm just being honest with you, today's one of those days where I'm having a lot of doubt for some reason. But I never did quit. And in November of 2021, I had my first ever viral video. And that video ended up getting over 1 million views within 1 month, and it completely catapulted my channel. I went from making $0 per month on YouTube for about 8 months consistently to immediately making, I think, around $4,000 my very first month of being monetized. And as the channel continued to grow, I continued making even more money. And in my first full year on YouTube, I ended up making a little bit over $600,000 in pure income. And this year alone, I've already made over $1 million completely online. But anyways, here we are now. I've been hustling and grinding for years now, and I'm at this point in my life where I'm making more money than I ever thought was even possible, right? I'm buying rental properties. I'm continuing to invest in my portfolio to build my wealth. I've bought a beautiful home for my family inside of a beautiful neighborhood, right? I'm continuing to start new businesses. I'm continuing to scale the things that I'm doing now to continue having even more success. But the craziest part about all of that is when I really think about it, I'm not doing anything different today that I wasn't already doing back with my first business in my college apartment. Like, every single day, I'm just showing up and I'm putting in the work, right? The difference though is that my success today is a result of me never giving up. I just kept going. Even with all my setbacks, even with all the obstacles, I never gave up. I just kept going, and because of that, I started seeing small amounts of success. And that small success led to even bigger success. And that bigger success compounded to even bigger success. And because I never gave up, it just continued to compound bigger and bigger. And because I have no plans on stopping anytime soon, it's going to continue to compound. You know, at the end of all of my videos, I always tell you guys that you can accomplish anything you want and that I believe in you. And I want you to understand that I'm not just saying that because it sounds good. Like, I genuinely believe that every single person watching can accomplish the same exact things that I did. You know, I was this kid who at one point was $53,000 in debt. I failed college, I didn't get my degree. I was fired from multiple jobs. I failed multiple businesses. I got arrested. And at one point, even though it did get expunged, at one point I had a criminal record. And despite all of that, I was still able to get to where I'm at today. And so when I tell you that if I can do it, you can do it too, I am not just saying that. Hey, you're amazing, and I will see you again very, very soon. Take care.